Today we're going to be doing another retro tech review. I've been putting off upgrading my laptop for um, several years. I've been thinking about it for the last, say, 2 years. And so, yeah, I've been kind of putting it off in the last couple of years. Last year I picked up a Mac Mini M4 base model with the 16 gigs of RAM, unified memory, and just the base configuration. And that's what I'm using here in the studio to record. Um, and that's been working really well for a lot of different purposes. My previous notebook, MacBook, is the 2019 flagship. It was the 16-inch MacBook Pro, 32 gigs of RAM, and an 8 gig uh, discrete graphics card, Radeon graphics card, 1 terabyte of SSD. And so it wasn't the absolute top spec. There was a 64 gig RAM version, but I think I had the top end i9 processor and the top end discrete graphics card with 8 gig graphics card. I bought that in, I believe, early 2020. I picked that up. Brand new, but off of Facebook Marketplace. It was in the box and unopened. I think I paid 4,000 Canadian dollars for that MacBook Pro in late 2019 or early 2020. Within about a year, that year, the M1 MacBook Pros came out. So I believe the original 2020 MacBook Pros were based off of the same chassis as the 2019 MacBook Pros, and the 2019 MacBook Pros had some thermal issues. It was a bit too much going on in those tiny case chassis in order to cool it effectively. So it's well known to be like sort of a jet engine when you're doing any kind of intensive operations. Needless to say, though, I mean, it's been a great laptop. It's probably the best laptop I've ever owned. And I think that testament to that is the fact that it's now 2026 and I still have been using that up until very recently as my primary laptop. So I started looking around I thought maybe I could pick up an M4 Pro. Now that the newer ones are coming out with the M5 chips, I thought it's possible I might be able to get like a MacBook Pro M4. So I started looking around, but on the used marketplace, there wasn't a lot of options, and they were still wanting quite a bit of money for them. So it didn't seem like the greatest option. And then I started kind of looking around. A lot of M1 Maxes were coming up. So the M1 Max MacBook Pro 16-inch 2021. Started to see those kind of popping up quite a bit on my Facebook Marketplace feed. And that started to intrigue me because even though that's a much older model and not a massive like year upgrade from my 2019 to 2021, I was looking specifically at the M1 Max chip with 64 gigs of unified memory. And what I ended up finding was a M1 Max, 64 gigs of unified memory and 2 terabyte storage, onboard storage with a really good battery life. That was another thing I was interested in because my 2019 still has very good battery, and that comes down to the fact that I don't often run it unplugged. So even if I take it into the office or if I take it somewhere, I will use it off a battery, but often I'll keep it plugged in so that I'm not using battery cycles. And I've always since day one had it on optimized battery. So the one that I ended up picking up, the MacBook M1 Max, has I think a 94 or 95% battery condition, battery life, which is really high for the 2021 MacBook Pros. And it's also in physically mint condition. So I think it was a very low usage MacBook Pro. It's basically like brand new. And I've seen lots of them out there that were like, not in great condition. Battery life was like often in the mid 80s, like 84%, 85% in around there. And, a few dings, a few stickers. I don't know why people put stickers on their computers, but whatever, to each their own. So, anyways, I ended up picking this one up. I think I paid 1,950, so just under 2,000 Canadian dollars for the MacBook M1 Max with 64 gigs of unified memory and 2 terabyte storage. So, why would I buy such an old MacBook Pro? Traditionally, this is my fourth MacBook Pro that I've owned. The first one I bought was a 2009 i7 17-inch MacBook Pro. That one had upgradable RAM and upgradable drive. Back in those days, you could do those upgrades yourself. I still have it, and it's in actually really good condition still. I don't use it, but I have once in a while I'll fire it up, but it's pretty slow. And maybe I'll do a video about the different MacBook Pros that I've owned and show them all. But the next MacBook Pro I got was 2016. So I guess in that case, I had the original MacBook Pro for 6 or 7 years before I got the 2016. The 2009 MacBook Pro that I owned, I bought refurbished off of Apple's website, and that's kind of my preferred way of buying Apple stuff, is if I can get it refurbished. So for the 2016 MacBook Pro, I purchased it probably in around 2017. So I actually had that other MacBook Pro for several years, like probably close to 8 years. I bought it off of Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, I don't remember at the time, and it was good, but the keyboard, the number function keys, no, what was it? The number keys on it failed relatively quickly. Had a couple glitches. I think there was a heat issue with that, or the keyboards actually had a known issue. So that one Julia still uses, and what I did was I remapped the numeric keys to the function keys. So you use the function keys and they're remapped to the number keys so that you can use the keyboard. It's a little bit funky, but it does work. And that she still uses that computer. And that was an i7 with 16 gigs of RAM, and I think it had 1 terabyte hard drive, a solid state drive in it. And then I got the 2019 MacBook Pro off of Facebook Marketplace, but it was brand new when I got it. It was still in the box and unopened. So then now I've got the 2021. So there's been like a bit of a narrowing of the amount of like how long I've gone, or the model jumps. And some people would say like, okay, well, if you've been used to flagships, why would you go with a M1 when they've just released like the M5 MacBook Pro? The other option maybe would be to like buy, say, like a refurbished MacBook Pro M4 Max. So what I thought I'd do is we could take a look at the Mac website here and just go through and have a look at what's available. Let's start with the new one. So the MacBook Pro, I always want it to be large screen shopping, so I'm going to always get the 16-inch. I don't want the small screen. A lot of people will like the portability of the small screen. to me, it's a, it's not really, it's not what I'm wanting. I want like a workstation. So I always go 16 inch. So let's choose the 16 inch, select buy, and here we have, it doesn't really matter. I ended up getting the, so what do we got here? These are the different colors. We want the 16 inch. I would just say silver. That's what I ended up getting with the M1, so we'll just go with that. Standard display. I don't think the nano texture display was available. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if it was available in the M1 version. It's been available in the last couple, and if I had the option, I probably would get the nano texture display because I hate glary screens. That's a headache, for like literally a headache machine for me. So then now you have your options of your chips. You have the Pro or the Max chip. So I want the Max. Why do I want the Max? Well, so I want to be able to run local AI. And in order to do that, I need to have a higher GPU count. We'll go with the Max chip. I wouldn't buy a new one or a refurbished one that didn't have the Max chip. I want those higher core counts. Now, here I would probably normally just do the 18 core with a 32 core GPU. I think that's going to preclude us from getting the RAM that I want. So let's take a look here. Yeah, see, if I stick with the basic 18 core CPU, 32 core GPU, which is what the M1 Max that I have, I believe that's the core count that it has. It's a slightly different architecture, but it's essentially 18 core, or don't quote me on the CPU core count, but I believe the GPU core count is 32 core. So, but we want to get the most important thing is the amount of unified memory. I can't go with just 36 because I want to run these larger local models. So we're going to bump up to the 40 core GPU, and then now we have the option of getting the 64 gigs. So let's grab the 64 gigs. And we want the 2 terabyte, which is I believe is standard now as the base of the MacBook Pros. We'll get the 140 watt charger. We don't need any of the apps. We run DaVinci Resolve, no trade-in, and we'll just say no Apple Care. So what do we end up with? We end up with a total price of 6,500 Canadian before tax, so over $7,000 for a brand new M5 M5 Max, which I mean that's an awesome computer and definitely probably worth the money for a lot of people that are making money off of what they're doing. For what I'm doing, it's more research related. It does relate to my job to some degree, but it's also the YouTube channel. So it's like a lot, I would say predominantly non-commercial usage. So there's a difference of, like a $5,000 difference between what I paid for the M1, which has very similar specs, although definitely, older architecture. It's got the M1 Max rather than the M5 Max. So there's definitely going to be some major performance increases over what I've got. But the key component is the GPU count and then also the size of the unified memory, which in this case, the 64 gigs is really important. I'd love to have even 128 gigs, but then you're getting into crazy money. Like you can buy it for, you can buy the M5 Max with 28 gigs. Now you're getting up to like $8,000 after taxes, right? So just stick with 64. Now let's take a look see if we could do something with the in the refurbished and get like a little bit of a better deal. So let's go certified refurbished. I don't know if there's going to be any available because I haven't looked for a few days. But we'll go to Mac. We'll go to MacBook Pro. And then what do they got? Yeah, see, they're a little bit limited here. You never know what you're going to get with you never know what you're going to get on refurbished. So I was looking at one the other day that was a very similar spec. So these ones are M2. Here's an M2 Max, but a 14-inch. Let's take a look at this one here. This one has, well, that one has a massive 8 terabyte solid state drive, which that's massive and awesome, but it's not comparable to what I have, but only 32 gigs of the unified memory. So that just doesn't work for me. Let's go back and see if this slightly cheaper version had higher. Now, 32 gigs of unified and 8 terabyte solid state drive. So neither of these is going to work. And even if it did, the price is like, $5,500. So, and that's a 14-inch, not my style. I want the largest screen that I can get. And the screens on these MacBook Pros are awesome. So that's where we kind of leave. Now, the other day I did find an M4. So if you're looking at certified refurbished, there are better deals. But we're still talking about probably around $5,000 for something similarly spec to the M5 Max that we looked at, or the M1 Max that I ended up purchasing. So is it worth it to buy a 2021 M1 Max in 2026? Well, for me, yeah, because I want to run local AI models and I want to run large ones. Right now, I'm running Qwen Coder Next, which is I'm using the 80 billion parameter model, and it runs on the 64 gigs of unified memory. I have to turn the guardrails off, but it runs well, and I've been using it for an app that I'm running that I was developing locally on my MacBook Pro, and I was using the Qwen Coder as the back end of my app. So I'll talk more about that in another video about the app that I developed using Claude Code and using the LM Studio. You can use whichever, Olama, whatever, but I use LM Studio with the local LLM running in the background as the AI for the app. I also added into that, now that I've pushed that to a Mac Mini. I'll talk about that app in another video, but just as a basic framework, I built it so that I could use local tokens with the app, but then I'm hosting it on a M2 Mac Mini with only 8 gigs of unified memory, so it doesn't really make a lot of sense to run such a small AI. It's not very effective, like those 3 billion parameter models that you can run on 8 gigs of unified memory. It wasn't up to the task. So what I did was I also, on the app that I developed, I gave API gateways to Gemini and to Claude so that I could use the back end of because the app uses AI for a bunch of the functionality. So it has a built-in chat and mini chats on some of the different pages for logging data, and it does all the lookups and all the calculations and stuff like that via AI. So that's just a brief overview of why I upgraded to the M1 Max in 2026. I just don't really need to spend the money on the newest and greatest, so I picked this up so I can do what I need to do, but without spending all the money. Anyways, thanks for stopping by on today's video, and if you have any comments about the M1 Max in 2026, let me know down below. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you again on the next one. Bye for now.